Hey everybody, welcome to the Have You Ever Played podcast, the only podcast broadcast live from Curse, the voice IP service Curse. Do you
Oh
remember? Does
no.
anyone remember Curse?
Oh no. I vaguely
Anyway,
remember it. Oh god.
we'll talk about that in a second. I'm Matt, aka Matt Fun Dude, and I'm here with my co-host as usual.
Yes, I'm James, aka James04E, aka I only remember Curse from their fandom pages.
I remember Curse. Can you do the research real quick on like how long, if that's still around?
They were defunct in 2020. I have it up
There you
already.
go. I remember them because of the game Smite, the third person MOBA game Smite.
Mhm.
Because they had Curse integration, and it was like kind of Discord before Discord, but they just couldn't market it good.
Mhm.
And yeah, just nope. Buy Curse, their little
Sad.
fire icon.
Wait,
I
in the wiki page they have a section called Fate. Says
oh god,
some assets merged into Twitch, assets later acquired by Overwolf and Magic Find acquired by Fandom.
hmm. Isn't there a
Damn.
Curse fire like icon on Twitch? There's like a Curse emote. Yeah, the
Maybe.
fire emote on Twitch is the Curse
Ooh,
thing. It's a relic of the past.
Pog.
Another relic of the past, Pog, Pogchamp.
Man. Pog will never go out of be a relic of the past. I'll always use it.
Well, it kind of
IRL.
is. They
Yeah.
replaced it with Komodo
Yeah.
hype.
Yeah,
Even
they
it
did.
still is Pogchamp, but it's not Pogchamp.
It's not the same.
Um, it is weird. I'm looking at a list of the default Twitch emotes right now, and just going through them. It's just the weirdest things. It's just like Creeper, like Bible Thump, but obviously it's just Binding of Isaac.
Mhm.
Uh, it's just like a lot of people, who were like early on in Twitch, and then just some of the most random, like permanent emotes of all time. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Man, real ones use 7TV and BTTV and FFC. I don't even know
Oh
what the
god.
default emotes are anymore.
I don't know. I'm like looking at there's a one for Destructoid, which is like the Destructoid robot. And it's really funny that a lot of the emotes have gone to a point where people don't even know their origin anymore.
Yeah.
It just becomes the Twitch emotes. Like they don't realize they actually represent something.
Mhm.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah,
man.
man, it's emotes are a whole rabbit hole on their own.
hmm Speaking of Twitch, this week I resumed my twitching. I've been
Based.
playing a little game called Yume Nikki. It is.
Ooh.
Have you heard of that game?
I don't think so.
It is
Let me look it
a
up, see if I recognize it.
indie. It is a RPG Maker indie game, indie darling game, in which you play as a character and you walk around
Mhm.
and you go through like dreams and stuff, and you basically just walk around until things happen.
Yeah.
Uh, and there's no the gameplay is you find different effects that change your character. So like you have a menu and you can one of the effects is you can ride a bike and the bike
Mhm.
makes you fast. One of them you get small. One of them you like
Get
turn into a
small.
yeah. It's just weird, and you use those effects in areas of the game to have other weird things happen. So
Mhm.
it's a big exploration game. Um, it's a pretty good stream game.
Mhm.
Any horror game, even though this game actually isn't really that horror, but
It
any kind
looks
of
horror.
walking or horror-y, it's unsettling.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, in this, there's a lot of. Have you ever delved into any RPG Maker games or like watched
um.
any?
Yeah, I've watched one before. I can't remember which one it was, but I know some of the tropes. I guess.
I think there's a whole subgenre of RPG Maker games that are like the horror RPG Maker game,
Mhm.
which has like spooky things happen. It's like the cursed game. You're like walking around and like a spooky thing happens, and I think RPG Maker for some reason, like especially earlier editions, are like inherently creepy. They have like
Mhm.
an uncanny valley kind of not uncanny valley. Do you know like when you play on a server for a multiplayer game, but no one's online and it's just
Yeah.
empty server?
Empty server. Empty Gmod server.
MTG mod, yeah, they have a single player map or MTG mod servers, sort of weird creepiness to them, just by default. Um, it's almost like anything can happen in these RPG Maker games because you can just download one
Mm-hmm.
from the internet, and it's just made by a person, so you never know what you're downloading or like what's gonna happen.
No.
Um, I think that's why there's a lot of successful indie horror games on like itch.io and stuff because it's like you don't really know what you're getting into.
Yeah, I've definitely unintentionally come by a lot of those.
Yeah.
Like I know the look. The moment I looked up, the moment I looked up Yume Nikki, I'm like, oh,
Well, this was one of the first games, and everything else is kind of like trying to emulate a lot of what they did.
hmm
It's kind of like how I've been playing Silent Hill and going back and playing like classics. Like
yeah,
once you play these classics, then you realize like, oh my god, everything I've played has just been like a spin-off of this. And even in Yume Nikki, I think there's inspiration from Silent Hill. At least I feel that way in
hmm
terms of some of the environments and just like, oh, I'm in another kind of like Silent Hill esque sewery area. And then I'm
Ugh.
like, oh man, Lisa the Painful, which is another RPG Maker game, it has a similar kind of area, and everything is just kind of, inspired by other things, which I
hmm
mean, as someone who's just starting to get into horror games, I think I'm noticing a lot of tropes now.
hmm
Mhm. James, what is your like least played genre of a game?
Oh my god, my least played.
Yeah.
Probably racing games.
Yeah, you know what? Me
Played like
too.
none of those.
Would you play a racing game if you had like a wheel setup, like a full like wheel and pedals and
Ooh,
stuff?
maybe. I mean, I've played racing games like arcades and stuff, but I've never.
Hmm.
Or I guess for the original Xbox, like my uncle's old Xbox, there was one racing game that I played on it. I think it might have been Need for Speed or something. I can't remember, but yeah. Besides that, no, I haven't really played any.
Now,
But
are
I
you
would think about it.
would you go more in the direction of simulation or like Mario Kart style arcade, like arcadey racing?
Probably arcadey. I mean, like I want really like actually maybe something in between because I remember I saw some like Need for Speed game where it was like there were really like in depth car crashes, and it was
Hmm.
like they were like insane. I'm like, wow, if I ever play a racing game, I don't want to play to win. I want to play to do that.
Yeah, that was kind of a big thing for a while. I think they
Yeah.
were doing a lot of like blow up your car tech, like look how bad this
hmm
car looks when it gets blown up.
Yeah.
Um, and there was some fun racing games where it was all about off roading and like blowing up and doing all that kind of stuff.
hmm
Um, I was looking at American Truck Simulator because there's a big
Oh boy.
Steam spring sale. I don't know if you picked anything up, uh,
Um,
but
I
yeah.
I was going to get the Scott Pilgrim game. I actually just
Oh
remembered I
yeah,
do need to buy that before the next before the 23rd.
that's
Yeah,
a
man.
good game.
Looking at my wish list again. Like, I want to get Scott Pilgrim, maybe Near Automata. So I never
I
ended up
picked
playing
that
that.
one up. Yeah.
Disco Elysium. Literally every time this goes on sale, it's only $10. I'm like, oh yeah, a bunch of people recommended Disco Elysium. And even one of my former professors said like, yeah, this is a great game. You should play it. You'll learn a lot. Um, I just never ended up buying it.
That game is fantastic. You should buy it. I haven't beaten it, but I played a lot of it, and it's really, really good.
hmm
Um,
Then there's also Sonic Frontiers, which apparently was really good. And it's like $40 right now, but I don't know. I want to wait for it to be like 30 maybe
yeah, I'm waiting
before I buy
to.
it.
Like, I don't really like Sonic games. For the most part, that game piqued my interest in terms of
hmm
I think I would actually kind of have fun with it, especially like a
Yeah,
stream game or something.
yeah. Oh god, I haven't played Sonic games since like the Mario and Sonic like Olympics games. Like those were my
Oh God,
last Sonic related games actually. Actually no, I did play like Sonic Unleashed and Sonic the Hedgehog. I don't remember if those came out after or before, but
I think that might have been around the same or before.
yeah, I don't know. But I played them. Not very good, but
Yeah.
anyway, yeah. Like just the prospect of a good Sonic game is enough to pique the interest of many.
I mean, like Sonic Mania is supposed to be good, and like
hmm
there are some of the 3D games are like good and bad. Like I guess
Yeah,
Generations and
but I
Colors, there's
guess
like good things and bad things, but not really my cup of tea.
I guess more specifically a 3D Sonic game because that craze was insane. Like you had like Sonic Unleashed, Sonic the Hedgehog, Sonic and the Black Knights or whatever. Or the
Sonic and the Secret Rings,
yeah,
the
there
on
were
rails
so
Wii
many.
game.
There were so many, and all of them were not very good.
Yeah,
So the
and
idea that
then they
they
had
finally figured out how to make a good one is kind of crazy.
well, they had a resurgence in terms of like colors and generations and stuff,
Yeah,
where those are considered pretty good. I think
but aren't those both 2D and 3D? They're
they're
not
like a
full.
mix. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't really know too much about them.
Hmm.
I never even liked the games that are considered good in that series, like Sonic Adventure 2 and stuff. I think they're okay. The Chow
Yeah.
Garden's cool. That's probably the best thing about those games.
I ignored the Chow Garden for the most part.
They should just make. This is the most basic gaming take of all time, but they should just make the Chow Garden its own game.
Wow. Based.
Some people have tried to do that.
Hmm.
I think a close game I've streamed is called Wobble Dogs. It's
Hmm.
similar, sort of. I think it's just missing the competition element where you can like race them and like do different competitions and get stats and stuff.
Yeah.
Um, a couple Flash games used to do that back in the day. Like you raise a chicken and like compete.
Raise a chicken.
Same thing with like Final Fantasy Sevens, like what's it called, Chocobo races and stuff. Like you raise
Hmm.
them and yeah.
Wow,
Anyway,
it's just like Nintendogs.
yeah, just like it has animals. It's just like Animal Crossing.
Oh my god, so true.
Um, yeah. Anyway, I picked up, like you said, near. I picked that up.
Hmm.
It's been a long time. It's been a long time coming. I should probably play that game.
Yeah. You know,
Um,
I like watched the first episode of the anime, and then I was like, wait, and then I looked at like Reddit to see what people thought. And they were like, this is literally just a game, but an anime. I'm like, oh well, I might as well just play the game.
yeah. I also picked up the Mega Man Zero collection on uh Steam, which is a like collection
Ooh.
of the Game Boy Mega Man Zero games, which there's so many of. Which
Hmm.
it's so funny. I never played any of them as a kid, and I liked Mega Man kind of. Uh, but for some, the Mega Man Zero games, one are brutal. You might actually like them because it almost
Hmm.
feels like it feels like Mega Man. All right, this is gonna sound. Here's another take. It's kind of like the Dark Souls of Mega Man
The
games,
Dark Souls of Mega
but
Man
hear me
games.
out. In terms of, it's like it's weird because you're playing as Zero, and there's quality of life features in this port. They added like a save system where there's checkpoints. The original game did not have checkpoints.
Oh
Uh,
no.
it is brutal. You die constantly, and you had limited lives, and you have to like restart. And you're also like ranked based on
Hmm.
like you have like a S rank system where it's like lettered ranks. Um, it's brutal, and what happens is even like the first tutorial boss of the game, I died on like a couple times.
Hmm.
Like they don't even tell you how to play. Like I had to look at the manual because they don't tell you how to play the game. You just throw you right at an enemy.
Yeah,
And
I'm looking for the one Mega Man game that I've played. I think it was Mega Man Battle Network 5.
oh hell yeah, they are doing a they're well, skipping ahead a little bit. They are making a pack on Steam of all the Battle Network games,
Ooh.
which comes out in 3 weeks, and I'm gonna buy that because I've played like all the Battle Network games, but have not beaten any of them.
Hmm.
So, at least all of the Game Boy Battle Network games.
Yeah.
Which did the weird Pokemon thing of having multiple versions, which confused me as a child. So I have like 10 versions of the same game.
I remember my brother and I we had usually only gotten one version of the Pokemon games. And
Hmm.
then for Diamond and Pearl, I got Pearl and he got Diamond. And we're both playing through it and we're like comparing our places and we're like, wait a minute, this is like the same game.
Yeah, I didn't realize. I mean, I really did not realize that they were not the same game. And then also, I didn't end up getting Emerald because I was like, is that just Leaf Green? Like, I didn't understand how it worked until the DS games, basically.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, no. So I've been playing this, and the reason I said it was like the Dark Souls, uh, not just because of the difficulty. Basically, what you do is you'll run through a stage, and there is a leveling system and stuff like that. So like
Hmm.
you'll run through a Mega Man style stage, and they're really short stages, and then you'll hit a boss, and then the boss will destroy you because you need to learn its entire pattern. Otherwise, you're just
Oh
gonna die.
boy.
Like,
Yeah.
and they're simple patterns. It's maybe 3 or 4 things you need to learn.
Hmm.
But if you were playing this game without the save checkpoint system, when you died inevitably like 3 times or whatever, you would have to restart the whole stage and you'd have to walk all the way to the boss over and over again.
Yeah.
Now, it's basically like a save state right outside the boss door.
So
So
there's a
you can
bonfire.
reach yeah, you can retry the
Nice.
boss as many times as you want, but it's been like rough. Uh yeah, but it's like it just seems like it's back to back boss fights though. Like the whole game just feels like that, which is kind of cool. It's just like
Hmm.
learning boss fights. Um, so I'm really interested in playing more of that. I just picked up the other Mega Man collections because I was like, do I emulate these? Do I buy the original games? Whatever. I'm just like, you know what? Steam Deck. I'll do the collections. I could have emulated them, but whatever. I'll support the games.
Stemmed up.
Whatever. They're all cheap too.
Hmm.
Um, So I realized that I've never really given Mega Man a shot outside of like Mega Man 8 on PS1 and stuff like that.
Hmm.
So I'm gonna maybe try to play all the Mega Man games from 1 till whatever. Who knows?
Nice.
Yeah. So that's what I've been up to.
Yeah.
What have you been up to? Playing
Oh
Apex?
boy.
Being
Yeah, I've been playing.
sad?
I've been playing Apex. Oh man, it would take too long to explain if you haven't played it. If you don't play Apex, but there's a character whose big thing is she makes like a big like wall of goo, and
Okay.
then there's a character who places down his ultimate makes like a dome where you see people through walls if they're moving, like if
Mm-hmm.
they're walking or sprinting, not crouch walking though. But the idea is use the character's wall, then use the other character's like dome, and you basically just have this you have this wall that you can just see people through, and it's
Hmm.
so uninteractive. It's insane. It's funny, but like it is kind of annoying to play against. Also, Apex has like a bit of a cheater problem, so some people just don't play the second character and they just put up the wall. Then they're wall hacking anyway. So it's like I'll run into a tunnel. Someone will
It's
put up
so
the wall, and I'm
bad.
like, wait, this guy just hit me for 100 through the wall with, and he
Oh
didn't
my
have.
god.
It's so funny.
It's the wall hacking character. That's
Oh
so
man, but
silly.
yeah. Besides that, though, so I have been playing more Uno. It's been just as goofy as you'd expect. I still haven't played Deep Rock Galactic, even though a bunch of my friends convinced me to buy it when it was on sale. We just kind
Hmm.
of never played it. Um, and then I've been playing a lot of Slay the Spire. I think last podcast I mentioned that to unlock the fourth act of the game, you have to beat it with two other characters. And that was a big Ironclad one trick. Ironclad's like the tank, the guy that can get a bunch of like he can stack block, he can stack like strength and do like really big damage and stuff like that. Um, but yeah, I finally decided, okay, you know what? I want to unlock Act 4 because I've kind of just like beat the game over and over on Ironclad, and I don't have like I want to get the true ending of the game. So I beat it on the other two characters after much labor. The first character was Silent. He's like the poison assassin, like spam shiv guy. That one took a really long time because it was a play style I really was not used to, and it was a way of thinking I just like hadn't engaged with. Like, I actually needed to block. Like, could
Hmm.
you believe it? Like on Ironclad, I was literally I had a bunch of cards that would just give me more strength. And then I had a card that did like 5 times my strength. So every fight, I would just get like super low HP because I'm like using all my turns to stack strength and then just one shot the boss.
Amazing.
But yeah, I was playing assassin for a bit. It got fun eventually because I had this one card where it put four of these cards called shivs in my hand. They don't
Hmm.
cost any energy, and they just do like 4 damage. And I just like have a bunch of those, and I just spammed shivs on people, and it felt like I was, uh, I don't know, it felt like I was in the streets of New York, beating people up,
I
shivving them.
think you mentioned last time that you had in trouble with a boss that was like immune to the shivs or something,
Oh
or
yeah,
like you
yeah.
couldn't use them.
It was like every time I played a card, he got stronger, and like obviously, if I'm playing a card that spawns four more cards, it's not very good. So I didn't get that boss the time that I beat it, thankfully. Um, So then I went on to the next character that's called Defect, and he's wonky. He's got like these orbs, and each orb does different things, and you have to like spawn the orbs with certain cards. Like there's one orb that just does straight up damage, one that gives you block, and one that when it's channeled, channeling an orb is basically you use its effect to the fullest, and then it goes away. Like you have to get it again from some other card. When you channel the orb, it does a bunch of damage to the weakest enemy that you're facing. Um, and so yeah, it was actually kind of cool, like managing my orbs. Just you could like have your own little play styles. Like one person might get a bunch of the blocking orbs and just never take damage, whereas another would get a bunch of the damage orbs and just try to kill bosses fast and stuff like that. Um, yeah, it was definitely a really cool playstyle. I actually got to play this one the least because I beat the game with him on like the first try. And
Well, you
it's
found
funny
something that
because
clicked.
yeah, I I think I still like Ironclad more, but it's funny because like I had heard people saying like, oh, this is like the invoker of the game. He's really hard, and I'm like, dude, I just completed my first run while only taking like a grand total of 2 damage.
Hmm.
It's like, man, it was wacky.
I wonder if
Um,
it's because you're used to that style of character, and for other people, maybe it's more like taxing than just spamming shivs, like you were saying.
yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know. Like it made sense. Like it was, like I want to do damage. I use the damage orbs. I want to block his block orbs, like stuff like that. But yeah, after I beat the game with the last one, went back to Ironclad, and I found out I turned off like so the game has ascensions, which is basically every ascension is like a new like debuff on you, kind of like Halo skulls, I guess. And I turned off ascension. I'm like, yeah, I just want to get to Act 4, and I just couldn't beat the game again on my main character, even though it was so easy every other time. Like my
Hmm.
my cards were always just like bad and stuff like that. And so I looked up a guide or like a guide and a couple like tier lists to find out maybe the cards I'm trying to use are just awful. And I found out that the deck I was trying to use was literally all D tier cards. And what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to like stack block and stuff, and like you exhaust your cards and then use another card to like get them back. Because when you exhaust a card, normally you can't get it back like until the next combat encounter. But yeah, you exhaust your cards, use something to get it back. There's one card that makes all your skill cards, like your blocks and like buffs and stuff, cost 0, but they get exhausted every time you use them. So you're like in this cycle of I exhaust all my cards and I get them back, and then I have infinite block, and then I do a really hard hit or something. And I was like, wow, I played all the other characters, and I've got to say, this is boring. So I just went back to doing my strength stacking stuff. I still haven't beat the game yet or again yet, but uh, I wasn't nearly as bored as I was spamming block and still being unsuccessful.
Yeah, that is kind of thing about card games. Like when
Hmm.
it is weird that you can look up like what's the optimal deck, and then it still comes down to a little bit of RNG, and then I guess
Hmm.
the player component is what you can do with your deck. Because if you
Yeah.
like, obviously in like a Hearthstone or like a competitive game, you can use a pro deck. It doesn't mean you're like good at the game. Like you can
Hmm.
still fail horribly.
Yeah.
But still, it is weird. That's just like, all right, well, here's the best cards. All right, let me use them in this order. Blah blah blah. Like,
Yeah.
I don't particularly like building. Like some people, I think who play card games enjoy the building of the deck part, like trying to like workshop it.
Hmm.
And some people I think just will look up online and kind of get the best deck and then play it that way.
Yeah.
I think there's different types of card game players, but also this game being
Yeah,
single
I've seen
player.
that. It's like the Timmy, like it was a Magic the Gathering thing. I don't remember their
Yeah.
names, but yeah, I do know what you're talking about.
Hmm. Yeah, I think in the deep recesses of my mind where Hearthstone knowledge lies, I remember reading something about that
Hmm.
back when I tried to play Hearthstone and
Yeah.
then realized that I didn't want to spend all of my money to like have a chance in that game.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, card games are weird.
Yeah.
But what any other games you've been playing?
Um, Not too much else. Oh, actually, I was considering pre-ordering Diablo 4 because I wanted to play the beta
Oh.
with my friends. It was a closed beta last this weekend or last weekend, and then
Mhm.
this upcoming weekend is the open one. and I was debating, like, do I just pre-order the game now so I can play with my friends now? And I saw one of my friends spent the entire day, like literally 14 hours in a queue to even get into the game. I'm like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
I'll pass it up. Like, I'm at least I my thing is normally I want to play like some sort of beta or something before I commit to buying a game nowadays.
Hmm.
Or at least like have some vouch or something like that. Uh, Especially like pre-release stuff. Um, but yeah, so I'm just gonna wait for the open beta on that. It's kind of like what happened with Warhammer Dark Tide, whereas if you pre-ordered, you got like it was like early access technically. Um, but they had a thing with Steam where upon the game's release, uh, after release is when they started counting like your time played and your weeks owning the game for a refund. So I played the game for like 20 hours or something before release, and then I'm like, okay, I actually just don't like this. So I was able to get a full refund, which was
Hmm.
actually pretty cool.
There you go. Uh, my theory with Diablo 4, I haven't looked anything into it at all. I'm just going to
Hmm.
assume, following the trends of the former Diablo game, that probably the game won't get good until the first expansion, where it's like
Hmm.
no one can day one, no one will be able to connect. There'll be weird issues, things will be buggy, blah blah blah. Then a couple patches down the line will be playable, but then when the first expansion comes out, it's like, oh, it's good now. Like Diablo 3, I actually got into Diablo 3 on launch. I didn't care about Diablo because I hadn't played any Diablo games. For some reason, everyone was just hype about Diablo 3. So I'm like, all right, I'll buy it. And I got that
Hmm.
classic era screen where it was like whatever the code was, and you just couldn't play the game like the entire week of launch or something.
Yeah,
Um,
before recently, I actually didn't have much experience with Diablo, but when I back in October when I had COVID, one of my friends got me into Diablo. He was like a hard like Diablo addict. Like I'm talking, we were playing at 4 a.m. Like it was insane. Um,
which Diablo?
it was Diablo 3.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and we were literally just doing like we were doing rifts like on repeat. I played barbarian and just whirlwinded people in for him, and he played monk and just nuked them.
Oh, I love a spin to win in a
Yeah.
ARPG.
Mm-hmm.
I played Diablo 2 for the first time a couple of years ago. Beat through that and the expansion on hard on a, which is funny. I was playing with people, beat that game on hardcore, and didn't die on that and the expansion. But I was also playing a
Mm-hmm.
necromancer. But still, it was scary. There was moments where I almost died during the Diablo fight. It was scary.
Yeah.
Um, Diablo, like those games are cool, and I like the idea of hardcore. But I had this thing stuck in my head where I'm like, even if it's my first playthrough, I have to play hardcore, and just a bad way to play those games, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm not too crazy about the hardcore
Yeah.
stuff to be honest. We've played Path of Exile too many times and been completely and utterly disappointed by one person messing up for me
Oh
to
yeah.
ever commit to a hardcore run again like that.
Yeah, I wanted to point out our Path of Exile experience and how
Yeah.
our friend group only wants to play hardcore, which means when you die, inevitably, you have to make a new character and grind while your friends grind, and then everyone quits the game, basically.
Yeah, it's like the moment somebody dies, we all just quit and I'm like, "Well, why would we not just play not hardcore if we're going to quit the moment somebody dies?"
We needed to play normal because
Yeah.
I made it real. I had restarted that game so many times and got to one of the chapter bosses. There's like blood rain. It does like a blood
Hmm.
rain attack, and if you don't know how to dodge it, you instantly die. And
Yeah.
I instantly died on that. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then
It's
I
stuff
beat
like
the
that.
boss.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
stuff like that where I'm like, it is very clearly obvious that hardcore is meant for a niche section of the fan base of this game, of the player base of this game that has played it a lot of times already.
Yeah, you're not supposed to play on Path of Exile, especially.
Yeah,
You're not supposed to play hardcore the first time. I mean, you can start hardcore, you just turn into normal if you die.
yeah,
Um, but the thing is, right? I beat that boss, and then I got to the town, and there's like a mining mini game. I'm like, oh, it's a mini game. Let me see this. Yeah, it turns out it's like a mini game where if you don't stay with your minecart, you instantly die. So I'm like, oh, I lost the minecart. Oh well, instantly died. Got one
man.
shot killed. I'm like, all right, cool. Just like that, so disheartening.
Oh man.
Um, Never made it past that segment because I was just so like it was like my 10th character.
Yeah,
It's like, yeah, no, not worth it. And I can't bring myself to play it on normal. And also, the skill tree in that game is scary. But
yeah. The skill tree is it's something else. It's just too much stuff.
yeah, that game is like too intimidating for me to play. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, then there was also when you brought up the queue, it just reminded me of New World.
Oh
Remember
God.
New World? That game. Oh my god, New World was so fun on launch. It was
Hmm.
so fun. Did you play New World a little bit, right?
A little, yeah.
Oh man. It was so fun because you would run around and you have a gun or you'd have your whatever and you'd be running with people in like PvP and it was a ton of fun. And I remember just the queues being in like a 9,000 person queue and waiting for like 3 hours just to get in.
Hmm.
But it was so fun. And then it just like the cracks really shown through
Yeah.
where it was like this is a PvP game. Okay, well, we need to make it more broad. So now it's a PvE game, but there's no PvE content and
Hmm.
the areas were really cool but the problem is and this is where I stopped playing. It's like, "All right, wait a minute. I just like I'm playing through the game and I'm getting higher level, but each area is just the same stuff with nothing in it and just the same enemy type over and over again."
Hmm.
Um, I mean, that game has the chance of being good again at some point, but it might just shut down before it does become good.
Yeah. Sag.
Um, yeah. And then Lost Ark, which is the other Amazon game studio. I mean, that game was just good in general. I actually think it's pretty good. I
I
kind of
haven't
fell
personally
off of
played
it.
it, but I have some friends that enjoy it.
Yeah, I fell off, but it was good when I played, and actually played pretty far into that game. Um, and then Blue Protocol now, which is a game I've been following for a while. It's an MMO. I don't know
Hmm.
too much about it. It just has like an anime art style, and I'm just like I've been wanting to play this game for a while, just from like a long time. It's been out in like Korea and stuff.
Yeah.
But Amazon Games is publishing it here, and they already started like censoring things, which they did in Lost Ark too.
Hmm.
Which is just a weird choice, to be honest. And by censoring, I mean like there's a character who's wearing like a skirt, and it's like in the Amazon games they're wearing pants. It's just kind of weird,
Yeah.
weird choices. And but some people on the Reddit are like so mad. They're just like, I can't believe they would do that. And it's about things like, oh, this character's wearing like has cleavage in this version, but in the American version, they're more covered up. And they're like, I'm boycotting the game. Like I'm playing on the
Man.
Korean server. I'm gonna learn Korean. I'm playing on the Korean servers. It's like, okay, I get it to a point, but then it's a hard position to defend. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? You don't
Yeah.
want to be the guy who's like guys, sign my change.org petition to bring back the panties for this game. Like you don't want to be that guy. Um, but yeah, I don't know. MMOs, it's hard to make
Yeah.
MMOs, especially now. They're so expensive and so
Oh
prone to
yeah.
just failure.
Yeah.
Um,
MMOs are rough.
yeah, I think the age of the MMO as we know it is probably besides like monoliths like World of Warcraft and Final Fantasy 14. Like I don't think we're gonna see a traditional MMO ever again. I think it would have to be
Yeah.
something completely different. But yeah, that's the world of the world of MMOs. Um,
MMOs.
so I think for week wise, I'm pretty sure I covered everything. I'm looking at my Steam library right now. Oh, I did buy Sackboy: A Big Adventure, which is the Little Big
Ooh.
Planet spin-off platformer game in the style of like a Mario Land 3D Land, which
Hmm.
I have no idea if that's going to be any good or not, but maybe it'll motivate them to bring a Little Big Planet game to PC, which I
Potentially
think
based.
leaked. I heard, all right, I
Ooh.
saw a leak about that, which is probably I don't know if it's any semblance of truth. Um, I would love it if they put a Little Big Planet game on PC, but I would also feel really bad for the developers of Restitched or whatever, which is the I think it's Restitched. Is it Restitched? I mention this like every week on the podcast.
Man.
It's the people making the fan game of
Mm-hmm.
Little Big Planet. I believe it's restitched. I'm looking for it on my wish list right now as I stall for time. But
Stall for time.
I mean, I will say, even if they release the Little Big, oh yeah, restitched. So even if they do release Little Big Planet on PC, I think restitched could still have a leg up potentially on based on their updates and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I'm hopeful. I just want one of those two games to come out so I can play. Um, I can see myself streaming that game a lot, just playing with people's levels.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah. Oh man, should we take some questions from our AI friend?
Sure.
I got it to generate some questions pre-stream.
Oh boy.
All right. If you have any questions, you can email us at hyepodcast@gmail.com. That is the HYEP podcast@gmail.com. Otherwise, we have Bing Chat AI to give us some super cool video game questions and even questions on the fly. So I asked it, do you want me to read from the regular questions, the funny questions, or the embarrassing questions?
Oh boy. How about a mix of both? Like you could take
Uh,
like maybe like two or three of each.
all right, I will go between the two. I'll start with one of the embarrassing questions.
Oh boy.
Have you ever rage quit a game or broke something?
Um when I was like 12, I broke my Modern Warfare 3 disc.
Well, Modern Warfare 3 sucked,
Yeah,
but
that was probably
like,
the problem.
did you snap it in like a fit of rage or like chuck it? Like, how did you break it?
I chucked it.
Were you like immediately like regretting it, or were you like, nah, that was it was.
I didn't immediately regret it, but I did end up buying a new copy.
Okay, you copped out so hard.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's rough. Um, I rage quit Overwatch half the time, even in casual. Not really half the time. If it's like there is like a slight penalty, I would never do it in like competitive. But like
Hmm.
sometimes you're just having a game and you shouldn't have queued for one more game, and you're just like, you know what? I'm just like it's usually within
Oh
the first
man.
minute of the game, and you're like, it was more so when I was playing support. I have now switched over to playing almost exclusively DPS, and I'm having way more fun. Turns out, when you play a character that can actually influence the match, and seems like you have, if you're good enough, you can basically carry the game.
Damn,
Turns
that's
out it's more
crazy.
fun than being a healer and, oh, wait, I'm healing, but no one's. Like 2 seconds into the match, you're like, oh, wait a minute. We have no coordination. What am I even doing? Am I even having
Yeah.
fun?
I think
Um,
my favorite part of the Doom queuing, as I'll dub it, is when like the queue's really long and you look at it and say, okay, if it gets to 3 minutes, I'm getting off. And then it gets 3 minutes and you're like, then you say if it gets to 4 minutes, I'm getting off. And then you find a game at 3:59 and you're like, wow, I actually kind of don't want to play.
oof. I actually most recently too, I was literally playing Smash Brothers Melee online on
Hmm.
Slippy, which a thing I wouldn't usually do, but I had friends over, so they're like, "Oh, let's queue online," and I got Smash players, especially Melee on Slippy. If you're playing Slippy online, you're in it. You're so committed into Smash Melee. It's not hard to like set up or anything, but like
Hmm.
you own a GameCube controller, you own the adapter basically. You're downloading an online platform and it's like 3 a.m. You're gonna be out here just being like it's a whole nother breed of human.
Yeah.
So we were playing matches, we're just handing off the controller or whatever, and we were each fighting the same person, but we're taking turns. Um,
Hmm.
Before I was the last person up to go, and we were just fighting someone, and every single time they would do anything, they would taunt and teabag and just be
Oh
the most
no.
just toxic. And then when we got into the lobby, they just spammed like the quick chat, LOL, 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 like, and
Oh man.
I'm just infuriated at this point because it's like I don't even want to like. First of all, I don't even want to be playing this game right now competitively, and I have to face like the scum of the earth. There's something about a teabag or like a taunt, especially in a game in a 1v1 game, that just gets me so angry because it's just like there is taunting that you could be like fun whatever, but there is a level like
Hmm.
you can tell. I don't know if you feel this way, but you can like feel the other person's through the game, and you're just like, oh, this person thinks they're like the coolest person of all time,
Yeah, you can
and
feel
it's
yourself
just
being disrespected, basically.
disrespect it. And it's
Yeah,
also like, I don't want to spend 400 hours to get good at this game. It's not worth it. And
yeah.
then that's when you question, am I even having fun with a competitive game?
The Mortal Kombat teabag is probably the most devious one, especially like, oh god, especially when they win and they do like the mercy thing and they just teabag for like 10 seconds until they finally do it. Oh my
it
god.
it's honestly, it's not the losing, it's the bad manners that gets me.
Yeah.
It's when people are like GG easy and it was a close match or something. There's something about just like being an absolute asshole.
God.
That it just, and in a competitive setting like that, because it's just like this person's clearly better at the game. But at the same time, it's like I will never get to that level because I do not care enough about one game. And then you do hit a point where it's like, well, I don't care enough about this game. I'm not having fun anymore. I don't know.
I'm
And
not
then it's
having
the it's
fun
the it's the
anymore.
competitive, it's the weird competitive thing.
Hmm.
Um, that just it awakens some deep anger. It's probably some other issues in my life that it just awakens this like wave of right like this this completely misdirected anger, but
Hmm.
toward Johnny Teabagger
Johnny
playing
T.
Junkrat or whatever.
Hmm.
I don't think people really are. I haven't really encountered that many like horrible BM players in Overwatch quick play for the most part. Some people
Yeah.
are. Uh, Usually what happens is someone will be like trash healers, and then everyone else on the team will be like, "You're the problem." But usually is what happens, to be
My
honest. Because
favorite
if
part
so,
is like the DPS with the lowest damage on the team saying tank diff.
yeah, like, and then but literally everyone is like, "You're literally the problem." Um, because, and also we're in quick play, so in comp it's different. But when you're in quick play, literally just leave. Like, who
Hmm.
cares? And it's usually the person who is complaining, and when they leave, the game turns around miraculously.
Yeah.
Uh, all right, let's read the next question. I'll go back to the funny questions instead.
Oh boy.
Uh, let's see. What is the worst advice you've ever received from a video game tutorial? That's actually a good question. Hmm.
Oh boy, that is rough.
Worst advice.
Um, Probably the Dota tutorial telling me to use voice chat.
I mean that is bad advice kind of, but in the same way it's kind of necessary, but I can't imagine
Yeah.
within a pub lobby.
Yeah.
Does League of Legends have voice chat?
I don't think so. I don't think it's
I
like
don't
straight
think
up
so
voice
either.
chat. Like I think you can do voice chat with your party
Yes, you can
because
with your
they're
party,
doing
but
like everything
I've
they
done
can to
that.
dance around like the open like voice chat with all your teammates in solo queue.
Mm, yeah. I can think of, it's not a tutorial, but I like the it's not even really advice, but it is kind of a funny tutorial thing. So the Team Fortress 2 tutorial, which is broken and doesn't and has not been fixed. Uh
Oh boy.
and I believe there might even be achievements tied behind this, but I don't think I don't know. But if you boot up Team Fortress 2 today, and this has always been the case for a long time, at least as when I've played it, you cannot finish like the I think it's the soldier tutorial because it just doesn't work, and they just never fixed it. And
Yeah.
also in these tutorials, you're playing with like under the assumption that it's basically like the OG stuff, so some things don't really apply.
Yeah.
Um, there are some games that have things like that where maybe they applied at one point, but now they no longer apply. I wish we could think. I wonder if people could write in some like funny tutorial tooltips and stuff, because there's a lot of games that have weird stuff like that, like Skyrim's big spinny windows and stuff.
Oh man, IRL really bad tutorial tooltips.
Yeah. Wait, I'm gonna look up. I'm just gonna look up bad
Like wait,
tutorial hints.
Oh god, like
in
yeah, when
gaming.
somebody's yelling at you, just tell them to calm down. It'll certainly help.
Oh god, I remember actually a bad tutorial was Pokemon the 3DS ones that were about islands. Pokemon Fire Sun and Moon, I believe.
Hmm.
I think that was Sun and Moon. Yeah. They had I bounced off that game so hard because there's like an 18-hour tutorial. Like the full beginning of the game is just a tutorial on how to play a baby game for babies, and it's just a monotonous grind that it killed my soul so hard.
Hmm.
Oh man, I'm trying to find any like honestly, I'm trying to find something funny because like that I swear I've seen things where it's just broken or just not relevant at all. It doesn't like it tells you the wrong thing. Like I
Hmm.
have played games where the tutorial, or maybe it's like some of the more early NES stuff where the translations are just wrong. It's just like get the blue sword, and it's just there's just things that are just don't translate and are completely not correct.
Man.
Um, all right, let's read an embarrassing question, quote unquote.
Oh boy.
Um, oh my god. I guess we'll spin this question. So it's just have you ever pretended to be sick to play video games all day? I'll spin it in a way that's actually more of a question. Like, do you have any games that you remember playing like when you were like out sick or something, or like you have any games that you would notoriously go back to if you were like sick?
Hmm. Um. So my parents, at least like in like I guess you'd say grade school. My parents didn't allow me to play video games when I was sick because if I could play video games, I could go to school, and that's why I was like, I actually missed very few school days.
Hmm.
Like, I think in total from like first grade to 12th, I missed maybe like for sickness purposes, maybe like five.
Hmm.
Um,
I, yeah.
yeah, but in college, when I was sick, um, I got really sick my freshman year, and I just played Overwatch a bunch.
Oh no, it made you sicker.
Yeah, probably.
Uh,
Honestly, that would make sense.
Yeah, I actually was gonna talk about that too. I think I remember that exact motto, where it's just like if you're like okay enough to play video games, like you could go to school.
Yeah, which is
Um,
actually ridiculous. Like that is literally like in post COVID era humanity, you would actually get called insane for that every single time. Like that, like that's one of those things where like you think about the things we did pre COVID, and it's like it's insane. Like how
well,
how unhygienic some stuff was.
I will say, there is something to that because there have been days where I've been like either so tired or so sick, even when I don't have I'll get home from work and I just will go to bed. I'm like I
Hmm.
can't even enjoy this right now, like a leisure activity.
Yeah, it's because you
But
can't like mentally like process things
half
basically.
of that is like I can't mentally literally get on Overwatch 2 right now.
Yeah,
It's 11 o'clock. I'll be wired for like 10 hours.
man.
Oh my god. Um, yeah, I actually do remember one specific instance though of I don't remember. I don't even remember if I was sick. I think I was. But I went to Target and I was in the car and my parents were like, "You can get a game or something." And my dad was like, "What game do you want?" And I'm like, this game just came out. I'm like, I want Super Princess Peach. It just came out. And he's like, are you sure you want that game? And he was like so disappointed because he was like, my son wants baby game, and I'm like,
Man.
yep, that's the one, because Mario, and that game is mid as hell. It's
Man.
very very mid.
Oh god, that's actually like a common experience too. It's like when you're sick, your parents like take you shopping with them and stuff like that. And it's
Yeah,
like, why am I here?
because no one's gonna want you. They
Yeah,
had
it's because they
stuff to
don't want to
do.
leave you home alone.
I remember going shopping all the time to the most boring stores of all
Yeah.
time. And the saving grace was I think it was TJ Maxx, or I don't remember what store. It was a store in the mall. It might have been Macy's or something.
Hmm.
It was boring and it was a day of nothing. But they had a little section and occasionally they would have like Game Boy games in
Ooh.
that section, and it might have even been DS time, so they were like cheap. And I would always like sometimes get a game, And those games were almost always Mega Man Battle Network, and that's how I got
Yeah.
the Mega Man Battle Network games. For some reason, all that those were like the only games they sold, and
Hmm.
because it was the only game in front of me, I'm like, I'll get that. And I did like those games, but I don't think I understood them, and like I didn't understand that they're like card deck builders basically. So I just didn't.
Hmm.
I was never good at them for a long time.
Yeah,
Uh,
I share that memory a little bit though, where it's like your parents are at some boring store and there's just a video game section, so you just sit there the whole time.
yeah. Um, I remember on an airplane, same thing. This was like, oh, we're gonna board a flight, and I'm like, I'm bored because I'm a kid, or whatever, and I have my Game
Yeah,
Boy, and my parents were like, all right, we're gonna buy. You can buy like one game here at the airport. There's like an airport game store, weirdly enough,
you can buy
and
one
I
airport video game.
and I bought Fire Emblem for Game Boy, and I was young, and like I was. They're like, don't buy a game just because it's here. Like, there's only a couple. I was like, no, I want this one, and then I played it for like, and I'm like, oh my god, I don't like this. Because you also had permadeath too, and I'm like, I don't
uh,
what like it's also a strategy game. I'm like,
yeah,
this is not fun. Which has started my hatred of Fire Emblem ever since.
man,
Even though I probably would like those games, but it's funnier to hate them because I had a
you
friend
should
who
have
liked
bought
them,
you should have bought one of the airport themed games at the airport game store.
such as Pilot Wings, Pilot Wings 64, um, Planes, based on the movie Cars, based on the spin-off of the movie Cars Planes, Microsoft Flight Simulator.
Man,
I don't know, other plane games.
yes.
Um, that reminds me of for my hatred of Fire Emblem as a meme. So I had a friend who in Smash plays Marth, and I'm like, I don't like Fire Emblem that much. So as a joke to myself, do you know how when you set an alarm, it if you have a song or something, it becomes like Pavlovian response to hate it because it's like, oh
Yeah,
my god, it's my alarm.
yeah.
So I originally had the Bayonetta arcade Bayonetta theme in college, and my all my roommates hated it, and I ended up hating the song because it was
Man.
whatever. I'm like, why am I doing this to a song I like? What I should do as a meme is set it to the Fire Emblem theme, so that whenever I hear Fire Emblem, I actually get mad. So
Hmm.
I was like, all right, for the bit, so I can. It was like just to like be angry at Fire Emblem for the bit. I had the Fire Emblem theme as my alarm, so I could be extra aggro whenever Fire Emblem came up.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, now I just use like generic alarm. So
Yeah, that reminds me. My alarm is it's like too relaxing. Like it's one of those like it's like titled like spring or something like that. And it's like so it actually doesn't like wake me up. Like I need something that makes me angry when I wake up maybe.
do you know those people who use like the death alarm, which is like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that's
My
too
my
much.
roommate my roommate
That's
in
too
college.
much.
Oh my god. He would
Oh
have that
god,
on and it wouldn't wake him up.
I
That
had a
was the
roommate like
worst
that
part.
too. Just would
Oh
sleep
my
through full
god.
alarms for like, oh god.
Yeah.
Um, all right, I want to read this. This is actually like a really interesting question. Uh, if you could erase one video game from existence, which would it be and why?
Oh boy.
I wonder.
Sheesh. That's hard because I don't remember the video games I don't like.
No, I'm thinking more like, at least my thought process is like, take out something that's huge, like take out like League of Legends or something. You know what I
Man.
mean? Like take out like a pillar of the gaming.
I mean, I think taking out League of Legends would actually have a oh god, I don't want to say it would be positive because like I'm
Well,
a
then
Dota
Dota would
player.
just
I
be
hate League.
League.
Well, so my thing is the initial creation of League had a lot of malicious, we'll say, advertising and such towards Dota. Like I'm sure I've shown it to you before. The no more Dota, and it was like disconnects and like it was like an acronym for all this shit that people hate about online games and stuff like that. That like at the time, I'm just like, man, imagine if that never existed.
Well, what's funny is I actually think League is pretty fun if in
Hmm.
casual, not in a serious.
Yeah, that's
mode.
something I hear very frequently.
But I wonder, like, what game? Well, what game like what is like bad for the industry in terms of a game that just maybe just all
Hmm.
gacha games, just the
You know,
concept of gacha.
God, I actually another answer I would have is I would actually say Overwatch, and it's not necessarily because like I hate the game or anything, but I think like Overwatch has like all the building blocks for like an actually perfect game, and I feel like it'll never live up to that. Like no matter
I
what they do.
I think even though so Overwatch in beta and when it was just the original characters, I think was genuinely a really fun game. And with every
Mhm.
character they added, kind of made the game worse in a way. Although they couldn't keep it the way it was, like they couldn't just keep the cast of characters.
Yeah.
Um,
But the thing is Overwatch attracts like so many audiences. You got
mhm.
like the entire Blizzard audience, like RTS games, like MMOs, all that RPGs, all that stuff. And then you've got like the FPS audience, the TF2 audience, like MOBA players.
I think there's just a huge audience of people who like the character designs and honestly could really care less about even playing the game. They just play it because they like the characters and like
Hmm.
kind of are terrible. Um, so I don't know, and I might boot up Overwatch after this, play a match or two. It still is fun, and there
Hmm.
isn't really anything else at the same caliber of it right now that I would play instead of it. I mean, if I'm playing TF2, I want to play TF2. That's a different. It's a different vibe entirely.
Hmm.
There's nothing. There's no other hero shooter. I mean, I guess there's Paladins. I think, but I haven't played Paladins. It's like a free to play thing.
I've looked at Paladin like character overviews and stuff, and I'm just not that like interested in the concepts.
Yeah, I don't know. Overwatch, it is polished and fun and cool, but it's yeah. I don't think I would want to get rid of it forever. At least it was it still is playable, and I think for the time when it was new, it was so fun. I think a lot of people forget how much fun people had when it came out.
Yeah.
And it was that was the era of people still thought Blizzard was great, like when they
Man.
released it. Yeah,
Oh man.
but yeah, that I wonder what else like a game. It has to be if I'm gonna pick something. It would just be something like oh maybe like Among Us. Not to hate on Among Us, but
Oh man.
that's not even like it's not even really like a toxic game. It's just
Yeah.
kind of like the worst. It's that there's a genre of game where it's like the imposter or whatever genre, and then that's just
Hmm.
like the most popular one, but it's really not that feature complete compared to other games. But then again,
Yeah.
then I don't know. That's like saying,
Um,
"Oh, get rid of Flappy Bird." It's like,
I think it's kind
uh,
of funny that we've been thinking about like the social impact of lots of these games, but I'm thinking like, what about like game trilogies where the third game was just shit and it just like
it
ruined the
just ruins the
reputation?
game.
Like it's like, yeah, what if they only made two? Like how will we view it nowadays?
Hmm. Yeah, I wonder. Oh, Little Big Planet 3. Honestly, that's actually
Mm,
when I'm thinking of them porting a Little Big Planet game, like 2 would be preferred over 3 cuz 3
mm-hmm.
well, 2 was made by Media Molecule and the first one was Media Molecule and then they got Sumo Digital like a third party company to do the third game. They added a bunch of weird stuff that wasn't really like moving the game forward. It was also buggy and unfinished and just I played a ton of 1, a ton of 2 and barely any of 3 and also 3 had you had to pay for online cuz it wasn't on PS3 anymore.
Oh man.
It's just like I don't that game didn't need to exist.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a third in a series?
Um.
I mean, I think some people may say Mass Effect 3. I haven't played any of
Yeah.
them,
So
but
I played Mass Effect 2, and then I had Mass Effect 3. I just didn't play it very much. But yeah, I can't really think of any off the top of my head.
okay, I'm going to ask it. Give me an epic gaming question and then we'll end on that one. I want to see what
Sure.
an epic question is. There's actually a ton of other questions it gave too, but I want to see what
Hmm.
epic. Oh wait, it might look up epic games.
Oh no.
More like epic lames.
Oh no, it's gonna ask us about Fortnite.
Oh, it's giving me like trivia. It just gave me a trivia question about Final Fantasy 14. Weird.
Damn.
It just gave me a bunch of trivia about games that have a bunch of musical tracks in them. Okay, that's not very funny. All right, wait. What's the weirdest thing you've ever Googled while playing a video game? So, like, I guess looking up something for a video game.
I mean, give me a sec.
While you think about it,
It's hard because like certainly the thing that I looked up was associated with a game having a very sus title,
mhm.
and then like yeah, and then like the words following up making it worse.
Oh god.
Let me check. I'm just checking my Steam library right now.
See, while you look, I was thinking anything from FromSoft. Just some of the weirdest shit. Just like not,
Yeah.
it's not even bad, but it's just like how to get purple fungus rice, how to
Hmm.
find bloody finger, how to get bloody finger from maiden blood. Like just I don't know, just the dumb.
Yeah.
You look up the dumbest searches for that game, or Stardew with the you look up like constantly looking up people's likes and stuff. And Terraria is
Oh,
kind of a
okay,
wiki
okay.
game
You know
too.
what this was? This is actually this is gonna be hard to word. Um, so there was a Bulletstorm trailer.
Yep.
Uh, and so I was very young, and they said something along the lines of strapping a sex toy on. And as a child, I'm like, what is that? I've never heard of that before. And I thought it was a gun or something, like a
Oh
gun in the
no.
game, because they showed one of the guns at the same time. And yeah, not not a very fun experience for young James.
Yeah, same thing with like Saints Row 3. I can
Yeah.
imagine with their whole marketing with the fun purple bat in
Mhm.
that game.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, anyway, just for the sake of time, let's end it here. I've been Matt, aka Matt Fun Dude, and who have you been?
I've been James, aka James04E. You can find me on the Twitters and the Twitches and all the various platforms.
Yep, you can find me playing Yume Nikki probably again on Twitch at some point, and then various other things on Twitter and whatnot. And yeah, I'll catch you around. Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.